The BMW X1 has been killing it in terms of sales of luxury subcompact crossovers, but some would say it's a bit
drab, a bit boring, a bit anonymous.
Yeah, exactly. Some people would say it's all of that. But what's the alternative? I mean, the Lexus NX looks wild with that huge grille, and the Mercedes GLA and Infiniti QX30 are just cheap hatchbacks with luxury badges on them. And don't even get me started on the Audi Q3.
But what about the Volvo XC40, Sammy? It's delivering charm in the way only a Volvo can. Have we finally found an alternative to the BMW X1?
All right, Sebastian, welcome to the X1, and here's something that you should know. The underpinnings of this car is shared with the Mini Countryman, and you can tell right away that some things in this car just don't feel like a BMW.
Like this gear selector, which is enormous. It sticks right out of there.
I know, usually BMW has a really small and easy to use electronic gear change, and this doesn't have that. But you know what? Take a look at the rest of the interior, and you've got the traditional BMW vibe. I really like this brown leather and this wood trim.
Sorry, it's a great place to nap, which I was just doing while you were explaining that, because it's so boring. This interior is brought to you by the letter Z.
Okay, so I mean, I guess you're right. It is a little safe in terms of design, but it's familiar. What I really like about the vehicle is just how easy to use the infotainment system is.
That's its major advantage over the Volvo. This is a really easy system to use, and everything is at hand. You never feel like you're reaching past your comfortable position to get at anything. It's all right there for you.
So BMW kind of nails that part, but let's see how they deal with the driving. So this car uses a mini platform, but you know what? There's a benefit to that because this car feels really tight. I mean, responsiveness is really good, and it doesn't feel unlike a BMW in that way, but in some other ways, it does feel a little weird.
Well, it doesn't quite feel like a luxury vehicle because it's really tight, and as soon as you go over any bumps, you feel it crashing around, and it makes loud noises, and it sounds like you're breaking something, which really I don't attribute with, beautiful luxury and whatever performance.
I totally agree with you. I mean, even just getting into our office driveway, there's a little bit of a dip and the car feels really harsh on that, and it feels like you broke something every single time, even though it's like a dip that much.
Yeah, it's not that big of a dip, and you can feel it every time. Or bumps in the road,
yeah,
going
right
over
there.
railroad tracks. Yeah, it's nuts. It's not comfortable. And I'll say the same about these seats, which I don't find that comfortable. They've got the crumb catcher extendy bit for your knees, but they don't really catch my knees, and they're kind of hard, and they're not that bad. But like on the drive here this morning, I was a little uncomfortable. Like I couldn't find a place where I was totally happy.
That's interesting because you know what? The rest of the vehicle is really comfortable and spacious. I mean, the rear seat space in comparison to the Volvo is much bigger in the BMW, and there's a ton of cargo space in this vehicle.
And the back seats slide forwards and backwards, which is a huge thing. That's really cool.
Yeah, families will love that, and that's probably why the BMW is so popular. It just is a very accommodating vehicle.
It's the Toyota Corolla of small luxury vehicles.
And I mean, I don't think it drives exactly like a sleepy Corolla. This engine, a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, makes a little less horsepower than the Volvo, actually almost 20 horsepower less than the Volvo.
Yeah, this makes 228, that makes 248, I think.
Which sounds bad on paper, but I think in motion these two cars drive very similarly.
Yeah, you don't feel that this is lacking power. I mean, the torque figures are pretty similar, which might explain why this thing jumps off the line just as well. And the gearbox is really well set up. That's got BMW all over it, and that's really well done.
Actually, the gearbox is pretty cool, especially because you can put it in a sport mode, which really keeps the revs really high. It makes the car feel really aggressive.
Yeah.
And then furthermore, you've got these really handy paddle shifters that give the car an extra edge.
And they're really responsive. They do what you want when you want it. You're grabbing a gear, like it'll grab a gear that is stupid, but that is the more fun gear to have.
And that doesn't quite happen in the Volvo. In fact, I don't think the Volvo has paddle shifters at all.
No, it doesn't have any paddle shifters. It's got the gear shift in the middle where you can go side to side, and it's just terrible.
But something that the BMW doesn't have, at least in this model that we're driving, is all the fancy driver assistance features. We don't have adaptive cruise control. We do have lane keep assist in this car, but it's a little overbearing, I think.
Yes, the most annoying of all the driver assistance features.
And I also wish that this car had the same camera, the parking camera system that the Volvo has. It's a 360 camera in the Volvo, and this thing just has one camera, and it's a little small. I really wish it was a bit better in that regard.
Yeah, and it's not that high quality, the footage. It's lacking in a couple of those areas. And the gadgets, which honestly, if you're at this point, you're kind of looking for gadgets. That's a big part of the equation when you're buying a car like this.
A slightly smaller part of the equation is the fuel economy, and despite this car being a little lighter and having the same number of gears and a less powerful engine, this car is actually a little less fuel efficient by 1 mile per gallon compared to the Volvo.
Yeah, and this gets 25 combined, that gets 26 combined, which isn't a huge difference. But, like, what are you doing with that power that you're not getting and that weight that you're not getting? Like, that's weird to me that it could have that combination of features that you would think would be good for fuel economy and still manage to somehow suck at fuel economy.
Well, let's take a look at the Volvo next and see whether or not that truly is better than the X1, because the X1 has a lot going for it, but it's not a perfect vehicle in any regard.
No. Welcome to my beautifully furnished living room, Sammy. Oh, I'm sorry, we're inside of a Volvo.
Actually, you're right. This is really stylish. I love this interior. It's so clean and modern.
Yeah, no, and there are a lot of great touches in here. There's a little garbage can for your stuff. Hey. There's this little thing that I can't figure out what goes there. You can put your phone there, but it doesn't really fit.
It's like a secret compartment. You can put the key in there.
It's a little secret compartment. That's exactly what it is. And look at all the materials. There's carpeting on the doors. Yeah, there's metal on the dash. There's rubber up here. There's like shiny plastic up here. There's matte plastic up here. There's a radio button that you can press accidentally. There's burlap on the roof.
Okay, take it easy. This is really familiar. This looks like what you would find in the XC90, the XC60. It's not like a smaller unit of an infotainment system.
Like you'd find in the X1.
Yeah, and it has Android Auto, unlike the X1.
It's kind of janky, though.
Yeah, it's better than nothing, right?
It's true, yeah, that's true.
But what I really like about the interior of this vehicle is that digital dash.
Yeah, it looks really good. It's a little hard to figure out what all the, how to get at everything, and there aren't that many options for it.
But I think once you get used to it, you'll find your way around it pretty easily.
Yeah, and it looks great. So here we are in the Volvo XC40, and already, aren't you cheering up? Isn't it a nicer place to sit?
I'll admit, it is a really solid interior, and the car feels really well built. Now, unlike the BMW, which uses a mini platform, this is a unique platform for Volvo. This is a different, we haven't seen this platform in use before.
No, this is brand new for them, and it feels pretty great. It's really soft riding, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And
how did they manage to do that despite 21-inch wheels on this thing?
That's incredible. This thing has stonking big wheels, and normally that's a recipe for crashing, but we just went over the same bump that we've been in the X1, and you don't hear much at all.
No, it's comfortable. It's really well sorted out in terms of ride quality.
Honestly, this is one of the better driving Volvos I've been in for like performance dynamics. Still not as good as the X1, but when you put it in sport mode, it's got little farty noises when you get high in the revs, and the steering is kind of sharp, and it's kind of got that nice rolly thing when you're in a corner that really inspires confidence. And it's got good brakes too.
Yeah, I've noticed. Actually, in addition to the brakes, the car is loaded with a ton of safety features.
Yeah.
This thing has the pilot assist that will track your lane while you're on the highway, and that's really handy. It never feels overbearing. It doesn't beep and freak out at you. It really just gently corrects your course when you're leaning out of your lane.
Yeah, it's Volvo doing what Volvo does best. It's really good safety equipment.
And the only element that I would say is not as good as the BMW is this powertrain. Now, it is more powerful, but it's a little less refined in how it delivers the power. This feels like, I will say it almost feels like an old school hot hatch where you got nothing and then bam, here comes all the power and torque. It's got lag,
It's
man.
wild. They say that you get full horsepower at 1800 RPM, but you feel like you're Yeah, you're
Yeah, you
constantly
feel
waiting
like
for the
what's-
power. You're reaching for it a little more.
Now that changes a little bit when you put it in that dynamic mode. It keeps the revs kind of hot in the sweet spot.
Yeah.
But one of the things I did not enjoy doing in this car was use the manual function.
It's terrible. It's
You have to-
really awful.
In fact, this whole gear stick situation is not very nice.
No, it's not. I'm in manual mode now.
And you have to tap it,
Yeah.
nudge it to the side, and it's really slow in the time it takes to change gears.
It does not give you the gear that you want. And it will do that thing where if you're gonna go jump into a gear where you're at like 6 grand, where the red line's at 65, it just won't give it to you. And that's kind of annoying. But on the other hand, this is like, it's a luxury car, it's not a sports car. So I'm willing to accept that I'm willing to accept that.
It took me forever to get used to the gear change though. Putting it from reverse or into drive, you have to go through neutral each time. So you have to double tap the gear shifter each time you want to change direction, which is kind of weird.
It's really bad. The thing that I'm not willing to suffer through is the stop-start function in traffic with this thing. I don't know what this is better than, like why this was acceptable, but it is just the worst. I like stop-start buttons. I think it's great. In the BMW X1, you don't like it. I think it's okay. In this, every time you're lurching off of a start.
Right.
And even if you try and beat it by going into manual mode so it starts the engine on its own, it's still, you can still feel it straining at the brakes because all of a sudden you're not pressing enough brakes. It is so bad. It is unacceptable. I had somebody in the car, they thought I was driving a manual because I was such a bad off-the-line thing. And I'm a better manual driver than that.
That's true. I have driven some manuals with you, but let's talk about this interior. We mentioned this interior was really solid.
Yeah.
But what about when you leave the car? You park the car, which is very easy to do with these driver assistance cameras.
It's got your park in, your parked out. It's got the 360 cam.
And I think this car looks really good once you walk away from it too. It's got, especially that front and front 3/4.
Yeah, looks good.
Looks really sharp. It falls apart a little bit at the back where the car just kind of, there's no design back there.
They kind of ran out of money at the back.
It's a little simple.
Whatever. But the color combinations, I love the two-tone. I'm all about the two-tone. I love this, whatever this color, shade of blue with the white roof. It's so good looking. And those 21-inch wheels, which don't harm the ride all that much, look hilarious. They look great.
And furthermore, wherever you go, people actually end up taking a look at the vehicle and tell you that it looks sharp, which is rare for an entry-level compact crossover.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't feel like you made a sacrifice picking this car. It feels like you chose the little one because you wanted the little one, which is great. Unlike the X1, where it feels like you picked that one because you couldn't really afford the X3, which is better.
Exactly.
Look, I'll admit, the X1 is a really good car.
Actually, they're both really good cars, but it's easy to see why the BMW is so popular. I mean, it's really spacious and it's really easy to use.
But if I was putting my money down on a car, I'd pick the XC40 every time. It looks good, it drives well, and it feels like a premium product.
I totally agree. It's the better pick of these two cars. Get out. Hit record this time.
Yeah, it looks really good. But how does it drive? Let's find out.
Okay. GoPro, stop recording.